So this is a picture of my institution currently. The Christian Medical College Velo is not as old as your institution. It is now 125 years old. It was started in the year 1900. And the story of the start of this institution is quite unique. It's about the story of a young lady from the United States who came to stay with her missionary parents in the country and then found that there were no women doctors. She actually witnessed 3 maternal deaths in one night. And there were 3 husbands who knocked on the door. That's why it's called the story of the 3 knocks, who knocked on the door of her father's house requesting for help for their wives who were in labor. But her father was not accepted being a male doctor, and she was requested to come and assist in the delivery, but she could not go because she was a young girl. So she went back and she studied medicine, one of the first few women to study medicine in the Cornell University in the United States, and came back and started this institution as a one-bed institution. And now it has grown to its current size. And we have 7 campuses across Velo, and we are affiliated with 84 mission hospitals across the country. And the goal of this institution is to develop through education and training compassionate, professionally excellent, and ethically sound individuals. So the need for ethics in our curriculum and in the training process is there in the goal of the institution itself. Next, please. So just a few words about what is unique about this institution. This picture will sort of is meant to represent something which is called the both and policy, which the institution follows. So what it refers to is that there is an equal emphasis on the need for sophisticated medical care. As you see in a picture of one of the theaters here, we have state of the art facilities for tertiary and quaternary care in 2 of our campuses. And we also cater to the people who live in very far away, remote, difficult to reach geographic areas, like the picture here where medical care is actually rendered from the top of a vehicle. This village does not have any buildings except incomplete buildings and some sheds, and so we use the vehicle to render medical care. So the both and policy refers to the fact that we have to train students to be able to provide primary care, tertiary care, and everything in between, like secondary care and whatever else is needed. And as you can imagine, because of this spectrum of training which is necessary for our students, mainly because once they study, most of them go away to mission hospitals, that is remote hospitals across the country. It's quite difficult to actually form a curriculum which will address all the types of issues which they might need an insight into. Next slide, please. This picture is about the academics of our institution. There is, I will skip through this quickly just to let you know that there are more than 1,500 medical students, more than 1,000 nursing students, and another 1,000 allied health students across the institution. So it's a large student body whom we have here in this spread across our 7 campuses. Next, please. This picture is about the clinical work in the institution. And the map of India shows that we get patients from all across India. So as you can imagine, it means our staff have to be fluent in more than just English and Tamil, which is the language which we speak in our state. So many of our faculty actually have to be have to learn to communicate in many languages, or find ways in which we can actually communicate to people, because we get people from across the country. We also get patients from across the many other countries surrounding in India, as you can see in the little picture on the right bottom. And the institution itself is fairly large. We get more than 10,000 outpatients a day. And so it's a fairly busy and large institution, which makes it quite unique, because not only is it a busy academic, research and clinical institution, it's also a faith-based institution where everything is sort of based on the scripture, and there is a lot of emphasis on the use of the scripture to form policies, on to justify our actions, and to in all our basic teaching, there is a mention of the theological basis of all our work. Next, please. Research is also a very large part of this institution, and at the bottom here you will see the amount of revenue or income in generated by internal and external grants for research. we are fairly well known in the country and across the world for the research which goes on here. Next, please. And so with that introduction, I want to tell you that the whole creation of this curriculum is sort of structured on the fact that our medical students nowadays, not only the medical students, all students nowadays have a lot of emphasis and a lot of respect for the achievements, that is clinical and research achievements in the institution. That is, there is a lot of emphasis on skill and knowledge, but attitudes is something which sort of takes a little bit of a backseat. So in this picture, you can see that in many of our yearbooks and in the publications which come out or which are put out in the institution, there is a lot of emphasis on the many firsts which the CMC campus is um, proud of. The first in many things, a treatment for leprosy, and in the last being the world's first institute to have a clinical trial for CAR-T therapy for hemophilia. But on the other hand, CMC also runs other services like play centers for children who have no access to school and play centers, elderly care home for women who are destitute, and so on and so forth. And it is becoming increasingly difficult to get medical students to be interested in these type of activities. But because health is not just the cure of diseases, it is important to preserve health and to promote flourishing rather than just existing without diseases. So these necessities have made it important to structure a curriculum for bioethics, which will factor in all these things. Next, please. So, sorry, you can skip this slide. This is just to say that we are affiliated with 84 mission hospitals. I couldn't get a relevant picture, so sorry about that. So the challenges which we face in creating a curriculum, the first thing is the philosophy. So because of the emphasis on the science of medicine and the many accolades and awards which are given by the institution, the state, and the central government for excellence in clinical care, there is not an equal amount of emphasis on the excellence of the art of medicine, on the need to be compassionate and the need to have the right attitudes to practice medicine. So this became one of the main factors which we had to, which we considered in what we'd like to inculcate in our students. The second is the practical and the logistic aspects of the curriculum. We had and we still have only one person with a master's degree in bioethics. When we started off and we embarked on this journey of creating curriculums for the institution, we did not have a department of bioethics. We were just a group of people who were coming from various departments and meeting together to work on bioethics. In the medical curriculum, which is set aside by the country, there was no time which was actually allotted for ethics. We had to borrow time from various other fields and specialties. We did not have enough people who were confident enough to say that they can teach bioethics. And of course, there was no funding. There was no money offered by the institution for helping start a curriculum. But what we did have is there was a lot of institutional buy-in. The principal's office was very keen that we should have a curriculum, and they said they will facilitate the teaching of the curriculum even though the time was not allotted by the university. And we had a lot of senior faculty who were interested in helping us with this curriculum. Next, please. So before this, it's not like ethics was not taught in CMC. I don't know whether you are familiar with this term Gurukulam. Gurukulam is a very Indian word. It's a method of living actually. So previously in India, teaching was when somebody was a student, it meant that the student that he or she actually lived in a facility with a teacher. So teaching was not considered something where you just impart knowledge. A teacher imparts life skills, a way of life, values, all sorts of things. So to learn all this, the student usually lived in a facility which had teachers and students living in the same place. Like in-house, a living and a teaching facility together. And that's how CMC is. All our medical students and all our students actually live on campus. Almost all the doctors in the institution, we have more than 1,000 doctors live on the campus. So it's a lot of opportunities for staff-student interaction. And before this, teaching was, ethics was taught rather than taught. There were many opportunities for students to observe teachers and faculty in their interactions. Then there were other opportunities to teach ethics. That is, all students go through at least one retreat a year. There are class prayers every week. There is a community orientation program where students are taught about poverty and its effects on health. This was an opportunity to teach. The community health department itself had bioethics rounds regularly for students. This is because of the fact that resource allocation in healthcare is not taught in any other department. And there were some departments in the hospital, main hospital, like the medical ICUs and the emergency, where ethics was being taught. Next slide, please. So these are the steps I have listed out, looking back at how we have gone through forming the curriculum. I'm not going to go through this slide because I have a few words to say on each of these. So next slide, please. So what we did in the beginning was we tried to identify what we will need to form a curriculum. Funds was only necessary for us for our interactions with various retired faculty and so on and so forth, and meeting people from other colleges. We did not really need too many funds. We just needed some funds. We needed funds to set up a library and those type of things. We did not have enough teaching faculty and material which was developed for teaching. So what we did is we wrote for some grants, and we were able to obtain this Obama Singh Initiative grant from the US government. It's a combined program between the US government and the Indian government. This grant allowed us to train 16 faculty from the institution by taking them to Tufts University. We had a collaboration with them, and to teach them on teach them to teach specific areas of bioethics and make them more confident about teaching small areas of bioethics, like bioethics in child health, bioethics in maternal care. So we had 16 people who became adjunct faculty of the institute, of the department, through this program. And to develop material which is specific to our curriculum, we conducted many surveys with medical students, interns, doctors who had graduated from here and are working in mission hospitals. And some of this work is already published in some journals and some is not. Next, please. The second is the statement of the educational goals. So we did not have very well written educational goals for bioethics, though our curriculum, the medical curriculum, is very well written. There are very clear objectives and very clear methods. We do not have something like this for ethics. And though it is easy to write goals and specifically decide what to teach in terms of skills, like resolving conflict in the ward or something like that, or knowledge about the various guidelines and laws which are required for practice of medicine in India, the philosophical aspects are not that easy to put down, and we spent a lot of time looking at what we would like the end product of somebody studying in CNC to look like, what we would like the student who graduates from here to look like. So that took a long time. And we had many discussions with faculty and retired staff and senior staff, including a lot of students also, to actually come up with the educational goals. Next, please. Then the identifying what the essential knowledge and skills and values. In my initial few slides, I was telling you that our institution is actually a bit different from other colleges. It actually is so. Not because of anything else, other than the fact that about 70% of our graduates go to remote parts of India and work in small mission hospitals. Now, having trained in a situation like CMC, where it's a tertiary and a quaternary care institution, all facilities are available, diagnostics are excellent, it's difficult for students to go to a remote place where there is hardly anything. Patients come from a much poorer background. Acceptance of Western medicine or allopathic medicine is not much. So it's quite different. So identifying what is essential knowledge for them, it may not just be the laws of the country which they need to learn, but how to survive in a small place like that is important. So all that became important for us to put down into the curriculum and to identify from our doctors who are already working in remote areas about the types of issues they face. We did look at all the national documents which are available and the legal requirements. We looked at many curriculums from across the world, like the South African curriculum, including some curriculums from Toronto, where I trained myself. Next, please. The next was looking at the teaching content and the methods of teaching. And by now we were able to develop some context-specific material, since we did not find things like that on the web. We found that if you search on the internet, there are many curriculums which have been published for people who are starting off to look at. We did look at all of them and borrowed from some of them, but most of the context is content is developed from our own context. And most of the cases which are available online are from the Western perspective, not from an Indian perspective, and will not really we will not be able to use it fully in the same style in India. And the educational style in CMC itself is a bit different. So because of this, we resorted to developing material with our large adjunct faculty group, the 16 doctors whom we had trained. They are all clinicians from various departments in CMC. So we have a very rich set of cases which we continuously update because of our continuous input of cases from the various departments in the institution, like the ICUs, emergency wards, labor room, the periphery or the remote areas where we work, including cases from admin about policies in the institution and cases which come in from the mission hospitals from our doctors who are working there, who have gone through this curriculum, as in being part of development of the curriculum, and also students who have learned from this curriculum. Next, please. The next thing is faculty development. Though we had 16 faculty who went to Tufts University to learn how to disseminate information on bioethics and to teach bioethics, we found that many people were a bit apprehensive about discussing cases in bioethics, discussing issues in the hospital in bioethics, because once the students identified them as adjunct faculty, they came to them with various issues which they were seeing in the hospital. So in addition to the visit to Tufts, we had numerous workshops in many departments, in pediatrics, in obstetrics and gynecology, including the non-clinical departments like radiology, and workshops. In the workshops, not only did we try and find out the ethical issues which they are facing, which we could help them with, we also tried to get them to commit to sending us cases regularly for us to populate our curriculum with. We also followed a lot of other methods for faculty development, like book clubs, movie clubs, discussions with other institutions in the country, like St. John's Medical College in Bangalore, and some rural mission hospitals where we conducted workshops along with them for us to learn. Next, please. And the next was how to enable learning for the students. As I said, the university did not give us time to teach medical ethics in the curriculum. So first we had to talk to the various department heads, like anatomy, physiology, and biochemistry in the preclinical years, and all the clinical departments, and ask them for some time from their own teaching to give us for us to teach ethics. They were not very happy to do so because they were already quite stretched for time, and they had a lot to cover in the amount of time they had been given for teaching academics in medicine. So it was very hard to get time from the clinicians. So what we did is we utilized a lot of other times which students have interacting with faculty, like the retreats, the Bible class, and so on and so forth. The other big thing which was not contributing towards learning is there was no way we could actually evaluate the students, because this was not contributing to their marks. Bioethics did not contribute to their markings or their grades in any way. So what we did is we spoke to the various adjunct faculty, and we added bioethics questions excuse me, to the end of posting evaluation, which meant thank you. What it meant is, at the end of every posting, when the students face an evaluation, if there are 10 questions, or if it is an OSCE type of evaluation, if there are 10 stations, 2 of the stations will be devoted to bioethics. So about 20% of their marks actually came out of an evaluation in ethics. This certainly enabled them to at least learn about what the codes and the guidelines of the country are, because they knew that they will be evaluated on that. What was not easy is evaluating attitudes. Next, please. So addressing the barriers, we still have problems with this, and that's why I have left the addressing without filling anything, because though we have department time from various departments, it's still, every time there is a crunch for time, bioethics is the subject which gets kicked out. We will have faculty calling us from department saying, this has to be completed, the exams are around the corner, so can we take your time this morning? It happens, and so time is still not adequate for us. we are a very small department. We have only 4 faculty who are fully working in the department, not full time, but fully committed towards this. The other adjunct faculty, all being clinicians, actually find it very hard to spend time in the department. And the student priorities itself are so they have the students in our college have a very busy social life. So their evenings are full of their own social activities. Their daytime is filled with academic activities from the college itself, and it's very hard to get them to prioritize ethics or to devote some time, even to do some reflective writing in ethics or to attend a movie club. The movies which we pick sometimes are not the most appealing for them, I think. So it's difficult to get them to prioritize ethics. Next, please. And assessment protocols. So we did look at a lot of assessment protocols from across the internet, from various other institutions. And we have found that it's very difficult to actually assess changes in attitudes over time. What we do is we have some reflective writing based on cases we give them in the beginning of the year. That is in the beginning of the course when they join as first year students. And we give them the same case to write about when they are in final year, and we try to see whether there are any changes in attitudes. We have various other ways like that where we interact with them using bioethics games in the beginning, in first year, and then again in final year, and we mark them based on some Likert scale questions which we have created for this. But assessment has not been very easy. We get the clinical departments to add, like I mentioned, to add assessment to their own marks, and they assess the skills and the knowledge. But the attitudes are mostly assessed by our own department. Next, please. And we are constantly revising the curriculum. This is because we need to keep the students interested. Since it's a small college and a residential college, and the students meet each other very frequently in the mess when they have their meals and so on and so forth, we find that some of the interesting cases get discussed by the students across the board. Like when students go back after the bioethics lessons, they discuss what they have studied and the cases they discussed with other students sometimes. Of course, all our cases are anonymized. There is no breach of confidentiality here, but they discuss what happened in class and whether the discussions were interesting. So next year, if you do the same case for this next batch of students, invariably they've heard about it. So we constantly need to keep our curriculum updated. We need to contextualize things. This curriculum was created in the year 2014. And in between the pandemic came. So now we have changed a lot of things based on current issues and developments in the field of medicine. So all this are constantly being reviewed and added to the curriculum on a regular basis. So we get input from the Institutional Review Board, which looks at research, from the Clinical Ethics Committee, from public domain, that is current cases which are there in the newspapers and so on and so forth, and use all this to keep revising the curriculum. Next, please. Finally, implementation. Just when we had finished creating our curriculum, the Medical Council of India, that's what it used to be called at that time. Now it is called the National Medical Council. They suddenly brought out an attitudes and communication booklet of their own. And they made it mandatory for all colleges in India to implement this curriculum. Now, this curriculum, when we went through it, we found that it was not at all suitable for our curriculum because there was a lot of emphasis on professionalism, a lot of emphasis on legal issues. It looked like this book which they have produced was mainly to keep doctors from getting caught in negligence suits and not get caught with lawsuits. There was hardly anything in terms of values and those type of things. So we did not find this very suitable for our college, but we were mandated to teach this. So we had a set of discussions with the principal, and the one good thing which happened is because of this AdCom module coming into the medical curriculum, there was now time available for us. In addition to the time which we had begged and borrowed from the various other departments, there was time available for us. So we made use of this time. We did teach what is there in the AdCom module, but we also added on our own curriculum to it. So in this way, we were able to increase the implementation of our own curriculum and still stick to the university's requirements for us to cover this curriculum also. Why we found it not relevant was while our curriculum is sort of structured in such a way that when the student is going through preclinical subjects like anatomy and physiology, what we teach is integrity in academics, respect for property of the college. Those are the type of things we teach. And everything, other things which are related to the patient, like confidentiality, autonomy, those type of things come when they actually see patients. Things like abortion, euthanasia, those type of things come in their final year when the student is a little more entrenched into the medical field, that we teach things like this. But this AdCom module actually spoke about things like this in their first year when students are not seeing patients at all. So we didn't find it contextual, but still it was mandated on us, and this was a big difficulty which we faced, but now we have managed to include this into our current curriculum. Next, please. So the review of our curriculum, like I said, it happens every year. We also get other departments to review our curriculum and continually update it. We also got a national award for the curriculum in the year 2014 from the Scotch Foundation for the innovativeness of this curriculum. Next, please. In addition to the undergrad medical curriculum, we have curriculums, separate curriculums for allied health services, for nursing, which includes diploma and BSc nursing. Postgraduate, we don't have separate curriculums for every field in the postgraduate, different fields, only for some of them. We have a separate postgraduate diploma in Christian ethics, so there is a separate curriculum for that also. We also have a MSc in bioethics, and so we have a separate curriculum for that also. These curriculums were all developed subsequent to the MBBS curriculum development. So we made use of our experience of developing that curriculum to develop all these curriculums. Next, please. No, so that is the end of my slides. And thank you for your patient hearing. I'll be happy to take any questions if there are.
I'm gonna unmute myself. Thank you so much, Anu, for this very nice and inspiring presentation. I think we're not too many, so those who want to put on their camera again, please go ahead. I found it very interesting and inspiring, and congratulations on all the work. I think it has been a lot of work to get to this stage. I'm not sure if there's any questions already from people who listened to the presentation. Chris, go ahead.
Anu, you told that one of the gaps is that you are not succeeding in giving due time and attention for the students for the, let's say, more typical Indian accents in bioethics. If I understood it well, what are you thinking of if you say we would be happy if we could give more attention or develop more this and this in the context of bioethics in your hospital?
Sorry, Chris, are you asking about the time for bioethics?
No, not the time. But if I understood you well, you said that one of the gaps is that the specific Indian, let's say, approach of bioethics, we do not have time to develop this. So this is lacking in the current curriculum. Could you give some examples of elements or fields that you would like to develop so that we as, let's say, external people get some idea what you mean by what is more Indian accents could be? Let's say Indian contributions to the field of bioethics.
Okay, so I'll give you an example. So our students, like all students elsewhere, in addition to listening to the class lectures and to learning from us, do a lot of learning of their own online. So when they look at bioethics and look up articles on bioethics, the most common thing they come across are the 4 principles: autonomy, biobeneficence, non-maleficence, and that is what they most commonly come across when they look up bioethics in the internet. Now, if you look at this, this is not at all suitable for a communitarian type of a place like India. Just to use a very simple example, so students come back and tell us But then the literature says that you have to allow autonomy, and you should allow the patient to make all the decisions, or if it is a research participant, to take part in research. Now, India being a communitarian country, and us existing in South India in a relatively small place like Vellore, in the community around us, it is very rare that a person makes a decision for themselves. If you look at very typically a household in South India in Tamil Nadu, if a child is born, it's not just the parents who name the child, the grandparents will be involved and the astronomer will be involved. The astronomer will give an idea about what are the alphabets you will have to choose to name your child. And then when the child goes to school, and specifically when the child has to choose a career or a college, it's the grandparents who have an input into it. The parents very definitely will choose a spouse. And even if it is what is termed a love marriage, where the person finds their spouse by themselves, the parents will have a very large say in the matter. If somebody is choosing something like medicine for a career, it is often parents who guide them on what's post-graduate to do. So in a situation like this, it is very unusual to it's not realistic to expect somebody to suddenly make a decision by themselves when it comes to medical care. They will definitely want to discuss with their parents, the older people. So autonomy is not understood by us the way it is understood in the West. It's not something which we would hold as a very important principle for our care of people here. So like that, we need things which are more culture specific. Confidentiality is another example. If you go to a village to collect data in a research setting, if you look at NIH forms, if you're going to ask any questions on menstrual hygiene, for example, it will ask you whether you have provided a confidential and secure place for the woman to talk. That's not how it works in my country. In my country, most women are quite happy to discuss with their neighbors and have their neighbors present when they're talking about things like this. So it's not being unethical to ask them this, because in our ethics allow us to do things like this.
Okay, yeah, it's nice examples. Thank you.
Any other questions? I see a message. No. It's Jared saying, thank you for your presentation. It is clear that it is a very ambitious project, which has seen a lot of success. I wanted to ask more about your experience with gaining the support of clinicians, professors, when it comes to giving more course time towards bioethics education. Have you found any particular strategies or approaches that are helpful when trying to build support among the professors?
Yeah, that's a really relevant question. So there were two threats which we experienced when it came to dealing with clinicians. So the first thing, when you have a department of bioethics which sort of takes an interest in the clinical aspects of what's happening, is people think, oh, why do they want to assume that we are not ethical? We know what we are doing and we are doing ethical things. We don't need them to come and tell us anything, or so that is sort of the first thing is we had to be careful how we projected our interest in the clinical departments. We did not want them to think that we are going there thinking we know better than them, or be a threat in any way. The second thing is, to get time, we found the easiest way is to make them a part of the bioethics department. So from medicine, surgery, all the departments where the university sends undergrad students, we had an adjunct faculty from that department so that they were also part of the bioethics department. So that became easier. When they saw themselves also as part of this, it became easier for them to let go of some of their time, rather than us being a separate standalone department and going and asking them for time for our department. So we had to work.
There's a small connection issue. I'll give it a moment. It happened before, but she came back, so. I think we lost you for a moment, but I think it's
Yes,
okay
I
now.
think my internet went off.
No, it's okay. It's okay. No worries. We can hear you fine now. So
Okay. If there are no other questions, I wanted to tell you about one experience. If that is okay, Eva.
Yeah, there's one more question, but we still have time.
Okay.
So go ahead. There's time enough to answer the question afterwards. If you want to share something based on the
So I thought we'll share one experience we had where we conducted a work camp for the medical students to teach ethics. So what it was is it was a weekend where we got permission from the principal to take 50 students from across the 5 years. That is, the students could volunteer to be part of the work camp. So we got students from first year up to final year. We took them away to a tribal place where I work, and we got them to build toilets for a community which had no toilets. So the job which was given to them is, in this community, the institution, my department was already building toilets for families who had no toilets. We were providing the material the family had to build by themselves. Of course, we had a mason to guide us in the building. So the students had to actually do the building for families who had nobody to build, like elderly women and men who had no children, or widows who had no husbands to help. Those type of things. So in this way, the objective of this whole work camp was to teach them to be relevant to the community. So though they were training to be doctors, sometimes they would have to be somebody's son or somebody's daughter, or somebody's friend in a situation like that. So that was the objective of the work camp, to teach them that they might once they leave the college and go into the mission hospitals, doling out medicines and prescribing and diagnosing was not their only role. They had to be relevant to the people around them. So we found many non-traditional ways of teaching which work better than the traditional ways. Frankly, the students find lectures about bioethics in classrooms extremely boring, and they like interactive things. They like games. They like reading stories and going out into the community and learning from there. So we are structuring our curriculum more and more like towards that than the traditional ways of teaching.
Thank you. That's very interesting. I think we can also reflect on that maybe. I had another question also from Alma. So Alma, go ahead.
Thank you, and hello, and thank you very much for very interesting presentation. I really enjoyed listening about your integrated approach to teaching bioethics, having bioethics questions in different subjects. Also, the example you just shared. Sorry, I think I got disconnected a bit. I was saying I enjoyed this integrated approach to teaching bioethics, and the example you shared, practical activities for the students. I was wondering how did students accept this, and if it impacted the grades of other subjects when you included bioethics questions, because I can imagine if you say students do not always enjoy bioethics topics and reading theory, were they happy that, for example, anatomy or physiology lecture also and exam included ethics content, and how did you deal with it to convince the students that it's fine, that it's part of these core medical subjects which they might consider more important?
Thank you for your question. So the students, predominantly the students who come to CMC, they are a slightly pre-selected lot. The majority of our students are Christian. 90% of our students are Christian, actually. So it's a slightly different type of a group of people. So very early on in the preclinical years, there is a lot of exposure they get into inequities in the community, access disparities to healthcare, poverty, and those type of things. So these topics, over the years, they become topics which they stay interested in. Now, removing their time from academics in other subjects to bioethics, it's always a struggle when it is closer to the exams. In the beginning of the year, when the exams are far away, the students are very happy to engage in these type of things. But closer to the year, we have found that it is very difficult for us to take these sessions. And we also try not to schedule our classes during that time, because they are all concentrating on the exams. They are not going to be listening to us, or to be willing to go away from their classes into the community for a type of activity like this. So we have found that if we are able to listen to their own, their own schedules and what is easier for them, and buy in from their own requirements, then it's their acceptance of our what we are trying to teach is a bit more. But if we try to dictate things to them and say, okay, this is your schedule for the year and this is when it's going to happen, it becomes a bit difficult to get them to attend the classes. And like I said, they don't like lectures in ethics. I myself find lectures a bit boring. They like activities. So that's why we try to base our activities, teaching on activities. Did that answer your question, or did I?
Oh, yes, it did. And thank you very much. I will definitely try to apply something from what you shared today in my own teaching. Thank you.
Any other questions? No? I might also have a question. So you did your master in Toronto in Canada yourself, and you mentioned that a lot of training programs in the West have a lot of Western cases that they discuss, and the focus is not so much on like other parts of the world. I think, like, how do you look back on that? Like, because we also have a lot of international students who then go back to their countries. Do we also need to reflect more? And like, is there a need to have like more interaction? I know you're working together with Chris and Roshni also, but do we need to interact more with like bioethicists like around the globe to have that more integrated also in Western like programs?
I would recommend that if you have international students, then a little more contextual teaching would be good. So my own experience of studying in Toronto, it was all positive. I really learned a lot of things which I never knew about. It piqued my interest in bioethics, and so I was an adult learner. Like, I went there after I had done my master's in community medicine. So I went there and I was able to identify the gaps. The program was very good, but no program can cover everything. You might have students from 5 different countries. You cannot teach them something which is relevant to every single country. So I learned the best I could from the University of Toronto. And then I had to top up my learning by, for example, in the University of Toronto, there was not much about Christian theology, which is very important for me because I belong to a faith-based institution. So I went towards a Baptist seminary there and topped up my learning from there. In the same way, my own the Indian context, I worked with the ICMR, the Indian Council of Medical Research, and various other colleges here, from where I could learn something which is more, the Indian systems of medicine and what is relevant here. And so I think no curriculum will provide everything. But if you can provide them the means to know that this is the basic or the most important things, and the other things they will have to go and learn by themselves, I think that's perfectly fine.
Yeah. Okay, thank you so much. Yeah. Any other questions? No? And I think I want to thank you a lot, Anu, for this very nice presentation. So we will make the recording also available on our YouTube channel if you want to rewatch afterwards. I think it can also be an inspiration for other people trying to develop a bioethics program in other parts of the world that have similar contexts, for example. So I want to thank everyone who joined this afternoon. Like, it's the last seminar of this academic year, like I said in the beginning, but we will be back after the summer. So I wish everyone a nice summer break, and thank you again for joining. Have a lovely afternoon.
Thank you, Eva.
Thank you.